Wow, you guys came back. All right, so we're out here working on Chaos Theory today, trying to get it ready for this weekend. Hopefully go make some passes at English Mountain if the weather holds out. So one thing I wanted to do before we take it back up there is I want to get the transmission lines off this radiator. You guys know I've been planning on doing that for a while. Basically, I don't want any unnecessary clutter up here. So we're going to get rid of these lines. A big part of that is because when we do the turbos are going to sit right here. And when I'm like kind of playing around with them, trying to figure out where I want to put them, they almost always make contact with this transmission line up here. So another reason for it is, you know, if I put everything on its own cooling system, that way all this radiator has to do is cool the water for the engine, and then our remote transmission cooler, all it has to do is cool the transmission fluid. We don't have like any cross heating going on. And here's the cooler we're going to use from Derale. This is the Electricool remote cooler, model 13900. So this is a 16-pass tube and fin transmission cooler that uses -6 AN fittings. Now, if you order model 13, I think it's 13600, it just comes with the cooler and fan. It does not come with the install kit. The model 13900, which is what this is, it comes with everything you need, basically. It comes with a temperature switch, comes with hose, fittings. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to use those fittings. I might do braided line because I have some laying around here. But this comes with everything you need to either use this as a standalone like we're doing, or it also comes with compression fittings to adapt to your stock transmission lines if you want to use it as an add-on, kind of put it in front of your radiator cooler there. So original plan was to put the cooler all the way in the back here, kind of under the gas tank. But Ray came over yesterday. We were looking under the car after we got it up on jack stands and ramps here, and it turns out we've got the perfect place to mount this thing, and it's right next to the transmission. So you guys know we're running fender exit exhaust, so we no longer have exhaust running through here, and we obviously don't have a catalytic converter on this car. Well, if you've ever ridden in the passenger side of a 3rd gen Camaro, you know there is a huge hump in the passenger floorboard there, and it turns out our cooler is going to fit nicely right here in this big humped in area where the catalytic converter used to sit. So Ray kind of held it up there, and even with the big fan, it's about 5 inches thick overall, but even with that big fan sticking out, it's not going to hang down below the body line at all. So the frame or subframe, whatever you want to call it, of the car there actually hangs down lower than the cooler will. So what we're going to do, we're going to mount our cooler right here under the passenger floorboard with 4 bolts, and then we're just going to run the line up and kind of loop it around the subframe to the transmission up there. And when we're done with that, I've actually already got a relay and everything wired up in the back of the car. So basically we're just going to have to run a single power wire up to the cooler, and should be good to go. So here is everything that comes with the kit. We've got our cooler here. Like I said, this is a double stacked 16-pass design, which means the fluid is going to go back and forth through these things a total of 16 times. We've got our fan. It's supposed to be 650 CFM. And then over here, it comes with, I believe it's 10 feet of hose. These are the compression fittings I was telling you guys about earlier. This is to adapt to, you know, regular hard lines. We're not going to be using those. This is our little temperature switch. It turns the fans on at 180 degrees and off at 165. This is the fitting for that temperature switch. You want to screw this on to whichever line is receiving fluid from the transmission. You know, that's going to be the hot fluid. Obviously, it's going to be cooler when it comes out the other side. So this is going to go on the hot side, and then your little sensor guy here is going to screw right into this little hole. Then it comes with a bunch of these fittings, which I thought were really neat. Basically, it's a barbed fitting to go onto this hose here, and then on the inside, it's, you know, or on the end, it's a -6 fitting. But you can put this barbed fitting in the hose, put your hose clamp on, and then it's still free for you to tighten it with the -6 fitting here on the end. Just like that. You got your hose clamps. It comes with some zip ties. Comes with 2 crimp connectors, female connectors for your temp switch. Comes with a ring terminal for when you ground it out. And of course it comes with mounting hardware, bolts, washers, and nuts to mount the cooler to the bottom of the car, or, you know, wherever you plan to mount it. Since we're running -6 lines, one other thing you're going to need is a set of adapters to screw into the side of the transmission for -6 lines. You can get these from LSX Innovations. That's actually where I got mine from. Guys, I will put links in the video description for all this, for this kit, and, you know, for these. That's really the only thing you need to do this install. First thing we're going to do is set this under the car, mark all our holes, and drill them in the floorboard. With the jack holding it up, I'm just going to come in here and drill my 4 holes. Now, I do want to say, the only thing I'm worried about is at some point, you know, we're going to be putting subframe connectors down through here. And I'm not sure how wide they are, but yeah, hopefully there's enough room between here and there for the subframe connectors to go. If not, you know, we'll just have to worry about that when the day comes. But that's actually part of the reason I'm not using the lines they provided, and I'm going to use braided line because I can come off here with 90s. Now, coming inside the car here, you can see the big humped up area. That's where the cooler's at. It's right about here. So I've removed this trim panel right here to let me pull the carpet up. You can see under here, you can see all my wires for my rear mount battery, and there's the holes we just drilled. So just stack my washer on top of my nut, reach around, hold this bolt with the other hand, and get that started. Then I can just reach into the car here with my wrench to hold the bolt while I tighten up the nut. We got both those tightened up, so I'm going to go over here, drill the other 2 holes, and yeah guys, I think I'm probably going to have to take my seat loose in there and tilt it back, or just move it out of the way to be able to reach those. So I'll go ahead, get those holes drilled, get those bolts in, and then we'll move along. Tell you what, if you're taking these 3rd gen seats out on this last bolt here, and you don't have a ratchet and wrench, you're in for a bad day. Seats out, and the cooler is mounted, but now we have to deal with some issues we've made for ourselves. So I'm not going to be able to run my little adapter to put my temperature switch straight off here because it's so close to the edge of the car. And I'm going to be honest, guys, when we go do the subframe connectors, I may have to figure something else out here. I'm not sure. But anyway, like we may have to end up spinning this thing and facing it another direction. The only reason I didn't do that initially is because I didn't like the way it was sitting. It was causing it to sit a little lower. We'll just deal with that when the time comes. But for now, what we need to do is we need to elbow off of both of these. We'll elbow off this one and come forward, and elbow off this one, and this is probably going to be our end line. So this is the line we'll put our adapter for our temperature switch on. And these are what I'm going to use to do it. These are just little 90 -690 adapters. Guys, I keep stuff like this on hand. They come in handy for fuel lines, nitrous lines, trans cooler lines. But Basically what we're going to do, we're just going to screw these on. Then one of them, we'll screw our little adapter in here for our pressure switch. And then after that, we'll run our trans lines. It says to just tighten by hand. So don't put a pair of pliers on here and try to wrench the hell out of it. My light died, so it's kind of hard to see. But we got our elbow adapters on here, both ends. And before some AN Nazi jumps on here, guys, I don't care about scratching my fittings. We've been over this multiple times. I just don't care. I don't build show cars. I build budget hot rods, borderline race cars sometimes, but not caring about scratches on my AN fittings. Scratch doesn't affect how well it seals. I also like to give it a little tug and make sure I misalign the edges just to really irk people. At this point, to avoid guessing games on the length of the hose, I went ahead and removed my factory fittings from the transmission, and I'm installing the LSX Innovations -6 adapters. Now, I'm pretty sure the bottom line is the output line. That's the line that's going to have the sensor in it, and the top line in the Turbo 350 transmission is it's the return line. So once I got my fittings on there, I went ahead and screwed one of my 45s into those fittings, went under there, marked my first hose, put a piece of tape on it. So now we'll just cut our hose right in the middle of that tape. Just like so. Then I'm going to put this 45 on the end of this hose. I'll go ahead and hook this hose up. Then I'll put this straight on the end of the hose we just cut. We'll go under there and measure it and get it all together. Yeah, the nylon braided hose is so much easier to work with than the stainless braided hose, in case you guys don't know. A little dab of spit will do you. Lube this up. And we'll make sure to use regular wrenches again. Scuff these fittings up real good and turn it past flush, just to geek out all the AN addicts. And just to show the haters, I do have wrenches. I also have the aluminum jaw to go in my vise to keep from scuffing them up. I just like reading all the haters' shitty comments in the comment section. You're scratching your AN fittings. Oh man, you didn't use Earl's thread lubricant when you put those AN fittings together. You're an idiot. You can't put together AN fittings with regular adjustable wrenches. Glad you're not building my car. Yes, yes. Let the hate flow through you. Let it flow through you. And there we have it. Two finely crafted transmission cooler lines. We got the lines in. You can see they're wrapping around here. And they go up to the transmission. I do have a few concerns. Like I can't remember if I said it earlier in the video, but I couldn't find any more straight fittings, so I had to use these 45s. I don't like the angle they're coming out at, so I am going to order me another batch of straight fittings and switch these out. But the other concern, these are cheap fittings, guys, and by cheap I don't just mean eBay cheap, I mean like no name eBay cheap. So I'm kind of worried. I mean, I can see some fluid around the edges of the swivel on both of them. You guys might remember I had some bad experiences with the swivels on, you know, no-name eBay fittings on turbo drains, things like that. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on these. Hopefully they don't leak. I do want to run the car this weekend if the weather's good. So, you know, hopefully these will at least last that long. I'm going to go ahead and put in an order for some more straight fittings though. But the lines are on and they come around here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to tie them up with a couple of these clamps right here. We'll just mount the clamps and, you know, run the lines through them to hold the lines up, and they go around the subframe there. Now, I'm not going to be able to do that as of yet because it's kind of late at night. I only have one of these in the correct size. It's the one I'm holding. I'm going to want at least two, you know, one for each line up here, possibly two more up there on the front of the subframe. But now we've got to move on to the wiring. So the way this works, you got two wires coming out of the fan here, right? You got a blue and a black. Black wire obviously is the ground. So what they want you to do is take your ground wire and find somewhere to ground it out. Well, we've got right here, this used to be a mount for the catalytic converter heat shield when it was on here. So what I'm probably going to do is just take my grinder, grind that off, so we get some bare metal there, and we'll go ahead, put the ring terminal they included on the black wire, and we'll ground it out right here. But once that's done, we're going to run the blue wire, which is our power wire, to one side of our thermostatic switch here. Then the other side of the thermostatic switch needs to get 12 volts. As you guys may or may not know, I happen to already have that covered. So a couple videos back, we went ahead and put together this fuse and relay box in the back of the car. See, it's all wired up, and I have already pre-wired it for the transcooler right here. So we've already got a transcooler outline, and I have already ran that line. It actually curves around and it goes right down through there. So all I've got left to do is to drill a hole in the floorboard of the car, kind of over by the edge of the door, and drop that line down. Now, in the back, the plan ultimately is to have our trigger wire go to the front of the car. We're going to run it into the Holley dash. The Holley dash should be able to activate the relay whenever it's on, whenever you turn the car on. And I'll have a virtual switch on the dash if for whatever reason, I feel like I need to turn the fan off. I'll be able to just scroll over a screen, hit the virtual switch to turn the fan off. Now, obviously, I'm not getting that done today. We're kind of in a hurry, and I don't want to leave the relay hot all the time. So what I've done just for the time being is I have just rigged the relay to a little switch here to turn the fan on and off, so it's not a constant draw on the battery. And you can see when I hit the switch, a little green light comes on the transcooler relay. So when that relay is active, and when the thermostat switch that's on our transcooler sees 185 degrees, it will complete the circuit to the transcooler and activate the fan. So let's go ahead, drill our hole, and finish running our wire down there to the transcooler. All right, so what we've got here is our terminals that came with our transcooler. So these are going to be the terminals for the switch, just two little basic female terminals there. And this is our ground terminal that we're going to put on our ground wire. So I'm going to go under here, crimp this on the ground wire, and go ahead and scuff off the area where I want to put it and get this tightened down. All right, crimp this guy on. Run our heat shrink over it. And we'll go ahead, put our terminal on for the power side. I'm going to run my wire above my hose here, and we'll go ahead and screw it into our ground slot, or our hole for ground there. And I did use a stainless steel screw, so Hopefully we don't have to worry about rust or anything. That part's taken care of. Now we're just going to take our power wire. We're going to plug it into one side of our switch and then run our other power wire down through the hole that I just smashed my finger drilling. Here's the hole I drilled, and you can see I put a nice thick grommet in there. We got our power wire come back from our relay, and as you can see here, we've got the seat and carpet and everything installed back in the car now because we are done with that. All right, I went ahead and put some loom on it. I'm going to tell you guys, I cut that extremely close. Like, I barely gave myself enough wire to reach this. So while I don't have but one of those larger clamps for the hoses, I do have a whole bag of smaller ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through right now. I'm going to go ahead and probably put just a couple of those clamps on here and screw them to the body seam here, you know, just to keep that wire from going anywhere. We got our clamps in, holding our line up. Everything's hooked up. Cooler's installed. Only thing we have left to do is tomorrow I'll go get my other clamps for these, and at that point, once I get those up and once it's not 9 o'clock at night, we'll go ahead and fire this thing up and check for leaks. But the cooler's installed. That's it for now. Like I said, we just got to check for leaks. That's pretty much it. Hopefully we'll finally get to take this thing back to the track this weekend. I'm really looking forward to trying out the new 26x10 Pro Bracket radials, and you know, trying out the trans cooler. We're not really going to be doing any cruising in it this weekend, but you know, we can kind of check it out at the track and kind of see where we stand with it, if it's going to do the job or not. It should, guys. This is the same trans cooler. I actually I waited for a month to pull the trigger on this trans cooler because I was not sure if it would be able to do what I needed it to do, especially under the car. But it turns out this is the same trans cooler that Motion Raceworks uses on their I think it's a 7-second Nova now. And they done Rocky Mountain Race Week, all that stuff with it. Didn't have any transmission temperature issues whatsoever. They've got it mounted in the same spot. So I think my puny little car here should be good. I'd love to go ahead and fire it up tonight and check for leaks and stuff. But like I said, it's pretty late, guys. And you guys know this thing is loud as hell with the fender exit exhaust. So the only thing I really have left to do to get it ready for this weekend is I still want to bend some stuff around just a little bit. I've already checked with these tires at full extension and fully compressed. They're not hitting anything, but I'm going to go ahead and make a little extra clearance just in case. You never know what's going to happen. An axle might shift, you know, anything, and you don't want to cut a tire, you know, running over 100 miles an hour. So we'll get that clearanced. I've already made some suspension adjustments that I told you guys in I think the last video that I was going to make. Yeah, pretty much all that's left is to fill our coolant system back up with water, and we should be ready to race, guys. We got a full nitrous bottle. We've got another half a nitrous bottle up there. It should be good to go. So with that being said, thanks once again for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. Then get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.